Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Leona and today I'm going to talk about the reasons why I left the United States of America. So this is a widely requested video. Many people don't understand why someone would leave the United States of America and come back to live on the African continent. So as you may know, I had an opportunity to go and study abroad in both the United Kingdom and the United States. So I lived abroad for a total of 8 years, but I decided to relocate permanently, hopefully, to the African continent. I'm currently based in South Africa and I hope to live back home in Zimbabwe in the near future. So let's get right into the reasons why I decided to come back to the continent. The first reason is that it's very difficult to get H-1B visa to work in America. So H-1B is the typical work visa for foreigners in America. So I went to school there after graduation. Getting a job and getting a company that could sponsor me was very, very difficult, especially since I wasn't coming from any critical skills background. So I studied social sciences. I did a degree in political economy for my undergraduate, and for my master's I did a master's in global business management, which is a program that's like sort of like an MBA. Yeah, it's an MBA. I did not get work experience in between my undergrad and master's. So yes, I could be a valuable addition to a company in the United States, but as a foreigner, I would have to offer a lot more for me to be selected over a lot of Americans that graduated with the same degrees that I did. If I had done something like engineering, software engineering, medicine, I don't know, any other skill that's critically in demand, the story could have been different because those are the people that get prioritized on the H-1B visa process. You also need to have a company that is willing to sponsor you as a foreigner. So what ended up happening in America is that recently there has been a growing anti-immigrant sentiment sentiment in America. When Trump was elected, this sentiment was growing already, and Trump issued a lot of made some changes that made it difficult for foreigners to get visas, especially the H-1B visa. It's already a lottery process, but then Trump also lowered the number of people that can get the H-1B visa through that process. A company has to be willing to go through that process with you, and unfortunately, because companies care about their bottom line, sometimes if you're not someone with critical skills, companies are not really willing to do that unless it's a very big company in America. So companies that are likely to sponsor you tend to be like those big companies that a lot of people apply to. So the competition is very intense. That's why sometimes going through this whole H-1B visa process can be a non-starter for people that are in social sciences fields. I'm not saying it's impossible, but for me, I just saw how difficult that process was going to be for me in my field and without work experience. And then, I just didn't look forward to it. And unfortunately, the other thing that happened is that some companies know that it's now difficult to hire a foreigner in America, right, in certain fields. So whenever they post a job, you have to apply through a portal. And before you even get to the application process, you get asked this question: do you have work authorization to work in America? If you say yes, they still ask you, will you need any sponsorship in the future? Do you have permanent work authorization in America? What this does is that it's an automatic rejection of students that are using F1 visas or J1 visas. If you have that what's it called, that time you're allowed to stay in America to work after school, is it called OTP? I'm even forgetting the terms, yo. OTP, let's hope it's OPT, like whatever that time period that you're given. Some companies are not even accepting you with that limited time you have to work in America because they are saying, okay, do you have permanent work authorization? So, for me to stay in America, I would have had to apply to so many jobs, apply to so many companies, that just maximizing my chances. And I would have to find a company that was willing to sponsor me and whatnot. And then I wouldn't even have any room to really negotiate. Beggars can't be choosers. We all know that. So if you are desperate for a job and a company knows that they have to sponsor you, you don't have that capacity to negotiate really. So you could be paid peanuts, and there's nothing you can do about it really, because you're a foreigner, you don't have much of a say, you know. That's one of the things. For me to stay, there were so many avenues I could have explored. With this challenge of papers, of getting H-1B visas, I could have navigated it by marrying a United States citizen. Some people have done this. I know people who have done that. Like, they literally married people in order to stay in America. I will be honest, this is a tell-all video, so I'm going to be as honest as possible. So there was a time that I really wanted to live the American dream. I thought America was it for me. I was like, this is the place. The biggest economy in the world, so much freedom. There's so many things to appreciate about America. I was like, I'm here to stay. So I was like, even if you make it hard for us foreigners to stay here, I will find a way. I was like, if it means I will marry someone to get my green card and eventually my American citizenship, at some point I thought I would do that. But the longer I stayed in America, the more I realized that that was not necessarily a good idea for me. I had to consider my personality and aspirations, a lot of different things. So for me, the idea of like giving away my freedom, everything to, I mean, I'm still young, you know, I'm 26. So at 26, making such a desperate move like that of marrying anybody, I don't know, I have to express this in Shona. Like, I was at a point where if I was going to marry someone, it wasn't going to be the most eligible bachelor in America, right? People that would be willing to marry you for papers. Remember, I wasn't ready to get married for real. I mean, I believe I have to date someone for some time, get to know them before I get married. So if I wanted to get my papers in time for my graduation and getting a job and blah, blah, I would have had to do it the other way around, like chikiribidi. I would have ndaifanira kuita chikiribidi, right? Ndaifanira kuroora ma-American basically because ndiri kuda mapepa handi. And pane vanhu vanozviita, kune mabackdoor akawanda, kune ma-Nigerians anozviita, even kuna naTexas chichi unongobhadhara munhu mari woitirwa zvinhu zvako. $5,000 ma-Nigerians wobhadhara vanenge vane ma-citizenship kudhara, and then mosota zvinhu zvedu mopretenda kuva couple. So I was like, you know, the idea of getting married to someone for real without loving the person just for papers wasn't appealing. You know, it comes with so many complications. That's like throwing your life away. And again, even if you get divorced from someone, there are so many other implications. You know, someone can blackmail you because someone anenga kuitira chinhu chiwombe like that. Something like getting my papers for you. They hold power over you, even if you decide to separate, even if you pay them, because people will come back to you because you, without them, you wouldn't be able to stay in America. So even after paying that $5,000 or $10,000, you owe them for life because waitirwa chinhu chikuru like kuva necitizenship yemuAmerica. And then marrying someone for real, again, semusikana, we have to bring other issues. It's easier for guys to marry musikana mu-American vachinyepedzera kumuda. Isusu vasikana, unfortunately, we tend to be the ones vanova propose to. We don't propose to guys. So even if I wanted to marry mu-American, right, ndaifanira kudanana naye ndomirira kuti andipropose to. It would be weird for me kuti ndidanane nemu-American for 2 months or 6 months or a year ndoshaya ndoti agatiroora ndini ndowanesa idea yo as musikana. So you see, for girls it can be trickier. So people that I know that got married for papers, let me take that back. I don't know people vakaroora for papers and ndikazoyada kubvunzwa handidi legally you guys know kuti ukabatwa wakaita zvinhu izvi unoenda mujeri and unoona kudipotwa. Saka ndikafamba ndichira kuti ndoziva vanhu vakazviita ndosasa ina handizive munhu anoroora nekuroorwa for mareasons dzake. Anyway, let's put it that way. But anyway, inini that was not appealing for me. The idea of being married just because ndoda kuramba ndiri muAmerica was My computer is off now. We've spent so much time on we spend so much time on this one topic. So tapedza nyaya yekuti I could have married an American. Tichiri panyaya yemavisa, there was a second option that a lot of people take, which is overstaying your visa. So I could have simply overstayed my student visa ndototongotanga kugara muAmerica zvichikiribidi. The reason why I didn't do this again was because I thought about what I really wanted in life, you know. So the idea yekuti ndika overstay ndiregera ndenge ndisakwanise kubuda muAmerica at all. It's impossible to travel outside the United States if you overstayed your visa for longer than 6 months. Because if you leave the United States, you get banned, I think for 10 years, I think minimum 10 years, you get banned from coming back. And then, so if anything happens to your family back home, you can't travel back to Zimbabwe. You are illegal in America, you are undocumented. And then the types of jobs that you can do kind of snap paper for America are like the minimum wage jobs. My jobs are under the table. Those types of jobs that you do under the table, like maybe kuchengeta mchembere munu padeni, maybe ukuita babysitting, maybe ukuita. I don't want to lie, it pays well and some people really enjoy it and whatnot. But for me, as someone anengabva kugraduate, especially when I masters, kutanga kuita mabasa akadaro ekuti atomboda kana degree or anything can take a toll on your mental health. Again, we're gonna get into mental health later on. Kuti, I had to think beyond livelihood. If I just thought about livelihood, as a babysitter, I can make $10 an hour, $12 an hour. I can make more money as a babysitter in America than as a professor in Zimbabwe, right? But, or in Zimbabwe, it use it, or somewhere, or a teacher, or a banker. All these fancy jobs back in Africa, but they earn very tiny amounts of money. You could earn that amount of money uri ku America, uri babysitter. But again, the earning potential inofanira kuva considered with the cost of living. So on paper, it may sound like your life would be better off in America, any minimum wage there. But when you start to think about how expensive America is and how hard you have to work, there are so many other factors to consider. So this video is going to be very long because for me to really, really explain these things, especially for someone who hasn't been abroad, it's very tough. I'm sure I'm not abroad, but so working my jobs under the table without my papers is not easy. You are worried about potential deportation, which doesn't happen often in America, thank God. You don't get asked for your documents, but getting any official job, a well-paying job, really official, without papers, is really almost impossible. So unofana kushanda mabasa kana kuti ekulifta ku warehouse, lifting boxes, you lifting every day, lifting heavy stuff, or construction for men. Like, people in America, if you understand economics, the only reason why Americans employ undocumented people or illegal immigrants there is to exploit cheap labor, right? So it's mostly people that are looking to exploit cheap labor that hire foreigners. Because again, it's a crime in America to employ someone that is illegal. But people in America do it either way. They don't employ them paper because they're kuchada that cheap labor to exploit. So again, these jobs are very labor intensive and very America is a place where people really work. That's one thing I understood. In America, you don't get paid for sitting. When you are paid per hour, you really grind during the hour. And when you go back home after a day of work in America, you're really exhausted. Again, I'm mixing up my topics here. So yeah, the difficulties of getting papers and kusada kwangu kuva an illegal immigrant itachuna under the table ndichijenga mtemo ndichitadza kudzoka kumba ndisingakwanise kubuda muAmerica was not an option, and kurorwa was not an option for me either. So let's move on. The second reason is that things are so expensive in America. The high cost of living in America is just something I could never get used to. It's hella expensive to live in America. Yes, you get paid a lot of money, but all of it, almost, you're just paying bill after bill after bill after bill. You will be surprised how many Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. I think 75% of Americans. They're actually one paycheck away from being broke. From afar, we think that everybody in America is rich, right? The image of America that we have from afar is not what it's like on the ground. Let me pick that. America is expensive. And some parts of America that I've been to are some of the most expensive places in the world. Remember, America is very big and diverse, so some states are much more expensive than others. So I have experience living in California, in the Bay Area to be specific, so San Francisco, Berkeley area. The rentals there are so high. I've also visited some friends in New York. And I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to start telling you how much you have to pay for a tiny apartment in Brooklyn or Manhattan or Manhattan, Manhattan. How do you say Manhattan? Manhattan, Brooklyn. Guys, I don't know. You get the point. It's very expensive to live in certain parts of America. So maybe a third or more than more than a third of your rent will be going to rent, and that's not, that's not, it's not easy because you have so many other bills. If you have a car, you will be paying for it monthly unless you buy it with cash. It's very difficult to save up money. So the American, oh my God, I don't know why I can't speak suddenly. America runs on credit, so people normally use credit cards to do a lot of things. So many purchases are done on credit. So that means a lot of people just live from paycheck to paycheck. You're just chasing these bills. You're just trying to catch up. You're just trying to buy. Again, this doesn't apply to everybody because some people know how to plan their lives financially. A lot of people know how to set themselves up so that they avoid debt. But unfortunately, many Americans can't avoid debt because they get student loans to pay for their college education. Universities are crazy expensive in America. I mean, you can pay like $25,000 a semester at some schools, and people are not able to save that type of money unless you come from a very rich family. So a lot of people, the average American, gets a loan to pay for that. So by the time people graduate, they usually owe like 30,000 on average that they need to pay back when they start working. So every month when your paycheck comes, even if you are paid more money than you would earn in Africa, for example, the bills that you pay in America, your rent is expensive, food is expensive. Let's say you don't have a student loan to pay back, that's good for you, but a lot of Americans do. So I'm just trying to show you how expensive life is over there and how people tend to be broke even though they live in the richest country in the world, right? Let me see. So again, the cost of living is something that I could have dealt with as a single person. If I was just Leona, I could just find like a super tiny apartment somewhere. If I'm living in New York or California, the expensive places, I could just find a tiny place, maybe have roommates. People have to have roommates these days in most of these cities. You could be an adult, almost 30 years old or even above 30, and you still share a kitchen and a lounge because you can't afford to own an entire place for yourself. I could have done those things to save money. I could have still maintained roommates, stuff like that. But then again, I thought more long term. Did I want to raise children there? If you have children, that changes the dynamic. You could survive as a single person, but can you afford to have kids? So for me, I thought about my future. I hopefully want to settle down one day. I would want to get married. I want to have kids. And when I look at how expensive America is and how a lot of Americans can't even afford to have children, affordability of kids is now an issue for many people. So I was like, how am I going to be able to have kids here in America? How will I pay for any of their education, even college? Unless I would have kids there, raise them for a short time, bring them over to Africa. I thought long term, and I couldn't see a future in such an unsustainably expensive place. To me, America, some parts of America have become unsustainably expensive. That's just my opinion. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see. I need to remember. Let me just look at my notes to remember everything so that I'm not all over the place. Again, another thing to consider when it comes to expenses is that healthcare is expensive in America. So you can have health insurance. It's encouraged. Everybody's supposed to have a health insurance that you pay for monthly. But then, God forbid that you have a medical emergency, you get sick or something like that. America is not really generous with sick leave and things like that, because a lot of people are not, because people don't have contracts normally, where you get paid when you're not at work. When you get sick, you have to forfeit your pay. And in America, unfortunately, it's one of those places where you can't survive for a long time without going to work. In America, people get homeless very quick. Again, you live paycheck to paycheck. So imagine if an emergency happens, you get sick, you go to the hospital for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a few months. That will set you back financially in a very dramatic way. You may not be able to recover quickly. There are homeless people in America. I think that's something that a lot of Africans that have never traveled to America will never understand, because our understanding of America is usually based on what we see in Hollywood movies. We think everybody is living large, partying. That's not what America is all about. A lot of Americans, the average American, actually struggles to make a living. They're just making ends meet, living from paycheck to paycheck. And then there are others that are actually in extreme poverty, including those that actually are living on the street, right? That just gives you perspective, right? Again, homelessness can happen to anybody in America if you fall into hard times, you get sick, you can't go to work, things like that. Again, talking about, speaking of emergencies, just to give you a sense of how expensive America is, some Americans don't even want people to call an ambulance when they get really sick. Because if an ambulance is called, you will find that you owe $1,000. For a short ambulance trip, less than 30 minutes, you could owe like more than $1,000. You could get a bill for 1,500 US for just using an ambulance. That's how expensive America is. Even when you have insurance, there are so many expenses, healthcare expenses that won't be covered by insurance. So again, emergencies in America can set you back financially all the time. There are things like being towed. Your car can be towed if you park. There's so many things that can just happen and you get towed. For you to go collect your car, you pay money. You could get a parking ticket. We're talking more than $100 sometimes for a parking, not a parking ticket. Yeah, you can get a parking ticket or a speeding ticket. Those things that are just normal day-to-day expenses, emergency expenses that you get from living, right? Whenever you're driving, you might just go over the speed limit, and that's another bill. So there's always things that happen that will need your money, right? That's the thing. Let's see. Fixing your car. I'm just giving an example. Fixing your car, again, because America is expensive, these are things that you will feel, because it's going to drain your money, because it's an expensive country. So if you have a car, you run into an emergency, you want to fix that, the bills are going to be high. So at the end of the day, the money that you get paid doesn't make that much sense if it's proportional sort of to the cost of living. Right, yeah. Okay, to give you a sense of how poor I was in America, I couldn't afford to do my hair in the United States, because doing your hair, just having braids done, it's usually $250 US. In Africa, in Zimbabwe, I can get that done for $10 US or $15 US. That gives you a sense of how expensive certain things are in America, simple things. So I could live in America and live. I was like, you know what? I could stay in America actually and be paid whatever amount of money that I could earn. And what kind of life would I be living where I can't even afford some of the things that are like basics, like hair, just doing my hair? I mean, if, when you are in America, again, everybody at home is expecting you to send money back home. You have so many responsibilities because, again, that name America makes, people think you can't be in America and not take care of people back in Africa, right? That's the thing. So sometimes for me to be able to take care of people that are that were back home in Africa, I would have to forego doing my hair. I couldn't have my hair done. I'll just be wearing these ridiculous wigs and whatnot. And sometimes in America, because of how expensive things are, people work overtime to the point where you don't even have time for self-care. This is the reality for a lot of people. I'm not joking. People get burnt out because now you have to have 2 jobs or 3 jobs to make ends meet. And again, that takes a toll on your mental health. This is a good segue into the third reason why I left America, which is the high levels of anxiety and depression. Mental health reasons. I won't lie. Mental health reasons were probably it's probably the most important of all reasons that I've talked about. Because everything else you can always navigate and find ways to deal with. But then mental health, good mental health is gold in the world that we currently live in. If you are not okay mentally, if you are depressed, then you might not even be able to work properly. You might not even have the motivation to do anything. And if it gets to the extreme, that is on the extreme end. Unotanga kufeel like hauna purpose in life. Me, okay, me, hanzi ukangona utanga sentence na me, ivomire papo. Because chirungu chako chine chakabenda big time, yeah. Ukangoti me, I am, okay. I personally experienced depression for the first time in the United States. I've always been a resilient person. I've gone through a lot of different things in life when I was in Africa. But for some reason, back home, I never got stressed out and burnt out to the point that I got in America, because unfortunately it wasn't just about physical exhaustion, it was really mental exhaustion. The environment in the United States somehow just triggers you to think a lot more, and again all these issues that I was dealing with, in addition to that, to all the struggles that everybody deals with, you also deal with loneliness. And in my own opinion, I think loneliness is the reason why a lot of Americans are depressed. There is a statistic that says, I don't know what the statistic is, but yeah, I don't remember the actual number, but a huge percentage of Americans are they are suffering from anxiety, and a huge chunk from depression. So when you are in America, you start to hear about people taking antidepressants. You start to hear people, you start to hear a lot about mental health, because it's a real big problem. We can call it a first world problem. I know here in Africa, so many people are suffering from high blood pressure. Yeah, and a BP, and a BP, and a BP. Yes, stress gets to us here on the continent, but it's not the same way as it is back in the United States, because in the United States, even young people experience anxiety and depression. It's not just like people with families that are struggling. Like, as a young person, you shouldn't be feeling the way that I was feeling in the United States. Feeling, like, for me, panic, a lack of purpose cannot feel as so. By being in a country that is everything, it makes you question everything. I can't even go deeper into these whole things, because mental health is it's a difficult thing to talk about, really. I don't know how to even talk about it, but let me try to summarize using my notes. Work is demanding in America. You are paid per hour, and usually you have to be very efficient, because America is developed for a reason. People work so hard, people are efficient, people deliver stuff quickly. You're working like that. You tend to be busy. You're constantly busy. A lot of people in America, trust me, you can't just call up someone in America at random, because people have schedules that are tight. Time is planned for. Time is so valuable for people. So you can't even meet your friends whenever you want, because everybody has their own life. They're trying to, they're caught up in the rat race, and that rat race is very taxing mentally. And again, there are some cultural reasons that I felt like contributed to high levels of anxiety and depression. I think individuality in America is a thing, the culture. So people are focused so much on the individual, not like the collective as we are in Africa. So in Africa, a neighbor will care about you. Someone on the street will literally ask you if you're okay. I've heard instances in Zimbabwe where I would be thinking so deeply, I'm worried about something, and I catch a taxi, like those combis. I go into a combi, the bus, whatever. I sit, and someone will be like, oh, you look sad, a stranger. They'll literally be like, hey, chi, what's going on? A stranger. Trust me, it happens a lot in Zimbabwe. Just random people caring about you as a person. That doesn't happen in America. In America, you see someone sitting there looking sad, people just go about their daily lives. Again, this individuality comes even in the family dynamic. So you find that someone will go and live in a different state, far away from their family. So a lot of people are living in big cities, miles away from their family. They probably see their family once on Thanksgiving, and that's it. And the relationships that a lot of people have with their families are a bit superficial. They're not like as strong as the ones we have back here in Africa. Yeah. Individualism. It also means friendships. I felt like friendships in America were a bit superficial as well. So people will be like, call me if you need anything. Call me if you need anything. Yeah, just call me if you. But they didn't mean it. So when you get to America, the first few years or the first few months, you think, okay, everybody's friendly, people are so nice and polite, and that's true. They're so sensitive, they respect you. But I felt like it's like very superficial, and people are fake as well. So to really have people that have your back, that support you in tangible ways when you really need them, that's kind of rare in the US. I felt lonely when I was over there, even though you would see me going out with people, doing things with people. There were people to do things with, but those friendships were a bit superficial in my own opinion. Yeah, and I don't think I could have gone through life and even grown as a person and have those friendships, because in life, as you grow older, you have bigger and bigger issues. You do need support, right? If I don't have my family's support, I would look to friends. But if friendships were superficial, then basically I had no one in America. I felt like I was really, 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 really alone. I'm not saying I didn't have people to interact with. I guess I get the point. Feeling alone as in no one has got your back type of thing. Like if I get kicked out of my apartment and I'm not working, whose house would I go to live in type of thing? People wouldn't support you to that level. There are homeless Americans, like I've said before. Imagine someone can be homeless when they have a family that has a house, because of that whole individualism. It's just a cultural difference, you know, like that type of thing. You're on your own. That's an American ideal. There was a point where I started to think, like, am I a human being or a machine? There were times that I felt like I was a machine, like working so hard, grinding. There was a job that really drained me emotionally, I don't want to lie, like a job where I would wake up in the morning and I would dread the mornings because I wouldn't feel motivated to wake up and do the job because it was just exhausting. So much pressure, terrible bosses. These things happen, but combined with the lack of support, the fact that you are alone, and the fact that you're just grinding out there for you to be able to afford rent and things, at some point it's not motivating. You can't feel motivated to grind so hard for peanuts at the end of the day, because it's not like you're getting rich. Like people think, oh, you go to America, boom, you have money. No, so sorry guys, I had a disturbance. I'm back. Whew, this video is now very long, very long. But anyway, the issue is deep, so it requires a very deep, long video to dissect. Anyway, high levels of anxiety and depression. I felt depressed in America. I felt lonely. Yeah, I struggled with anxiety. I even experienced insomnia. I couldn't sleep. There's so many nights where I just lay there thinking. For some reason, I had an opportunity to really understand that this only happened to me when I was in America, because I got a chance to travel back and forth so many times. So whenever I came to Zimbabwe, that would not happen to me. I would come to Zimbabwe, I'm home with my family, or even not home with my family, I'm living alone in Harare, and that would not happen to me. The minute I go back to America after 2 months and I get back in the groove of American stuff, I get back to being anxious. I get back to being like constantly thinking, constantly worrying about the future. I don't know why. I was always like worried, and I did not understand why. I don't know what it is about that environment in the United States that made me worry and that made me anxious. I guess one thing that I've learned about depression and anxiety is that the environment around you contributes to that as well. So if a lot of Americans are depressed, and if everybody's are anxious, are suffering from anxiety and whatnot, when people talk about mental health issues as though everybody's supposed to have mental health issues, you know, people talk about this thing as though like that's all there is, like literally this is it, like it's a life of pressure, always, it's like the norm. So I guess to a certain extent the environment, I still can't pinpoint what exactly that was about, but I felt I felt depressed over there. Lack of support, we talked about lack of support. Friendships are superficial. There are also these shootings that happen in America. Unfortunately, they've been happening frequently. Again, statistically, that's something you shouldn't worry about, but again, that's something that just concerns you. You know, when shootings happen, a few weeks after these mass shootings happen, I would be anxious, you know. There was a time when a shooting happened when I was really close by in Berkeley. It just makes you a bit anxious. You know that statistically it might not happen to you. The chances of it happening to you are minimal. But then again, that doesn't take away the worry, you know, especially when events like that happen, you know, like, yeah. The fourth reason why I left America is that I felt like an outsider. So I felt like I could try as much as possible to fit in. Yes, Leona could fit in, but how about my children? You know, if I wanted to settle in America and have a life there and have a family there, if I had kids, how would my kids navigate America? Because America has a lot of issues regarding identity and even the place that Black people hold in that society. You know, institutional racism still exists. I don't want to go back into those things, but racism is still a thing. And then the whole thing of Black people not really fitting in certain spaces, especially Black Africans. You can work in a place, but you could be the only Black person there. You know, for me, it's not such a bad thing. But when you contrast that with the life that I lived in Africa, where I'm part of the majority. Being part of the majority group of a country, trust me, it's a privilege that you get to understand when you go somewhere where you are a minority. So being in the minority, like people be like, oh, whenever you speak, people are like, oh, you have an accent. Oh my God, you have an accent. Where are you from? But I also didn't want to be that person that starts to copy an American accent, start to fake an American accent, because when you fake it, people can hear it. If you try to fake an American accent, sometimes it just doesn't come out well. So I didn't want to be that person who tries so hard to hide my accent and pretend to be someone that I'm not, just to fit in. Some topics that people talked about when you go to social settings, I didn't have anything to say about them. People grew up watching movies. I grew up in the rural place. We didn't have a TV. So people will be talking about all these celebrities or actors or anything from pop culture. I didn't know it. So to fit in with people my age, it was a bit difficult. So to fit in at the parties where they talk about a lot of trivial, superficial stuff as well that you don't know about, they'll play games that you don't know. There's so many settings where you felt uncomfortable. You could learn, definitely, but then again, if you were going to settle for good and you have a family there, you have kids, I had to think long term. What kind of life would my kids live? Do I have to train them to become American, and then do I ditch my family back in Zimbabwe and just become American? And there are so many things that I appreciate about African culture, or even specifically Shona culture. So there are certain things that I would want my children to have if I have children. So this decision was more like, where do I want to be long term, and that type of thing. I don't want to be feeling like an outsider. I want to be in a country where I belong. Again, when you look at world events that are happening, anti-immigration sentiment has been growing in Europe. So Brexit, we saw it happening in the United States with the whole anti-Mexican thing, building walls, the idea of building a wall. We've been seeing it happening in South Africa. You have the Dula movement. You have everywhere. There is economic pressures everywhere, and a lot of countries are deciding to not be open to giving immigrants opportunities. So when you think long term, if nationalist sentiment continues to grow, if you think long term, you understand that home is the place to be. Unfortunately, there are reasons why home, Zimbabwe, may not be attractive at the moment to be in. But then again, when I thought long term, I was like, you know what? I want to be in a place that I truly can belong in, and a place where I can make an impact. If I stayed in America, I'll probably do a job that's not even meaningful, a 9-to-5 job in a big company, contributing nothing much, just doing, basic, maybe data stuff, just working on these projects that did not have so much meaning to me. But being back home where there is a lot of need, a lot of problems that need to be solved, feels like this is where I need to be. Granted, it's going to be much more challenging, but the sense of belonging that you feel when you are here, being the majority, seeing a lot of Black people, I mean, it's an invaluable thing. It's like, it's nice to never have issues with your identity, to just walk around and feel like you belong, that type of thing. I can feel like I belong in South Africa. I can't feel the same way, I guess because I'm closer to home and there's so many Zimbabweans in South Africa. I can't feel the same way in Africa. Again, when it comes to feeling like an outsider, again, long-term decisions wise, if I stayed in America, I'll probably have to date an American and also maybe marry an American. When you think about those dynamics, again, you are the one who would have to compromise. You are the one who speaks 2 languages. You'd have to speak English, teach your culture, like navigating that space of identity and not completely fitting in, but then trying so hard. Just being an outsider all your life was just not appealing to me, because I saw so many first-generation Americans that still feel like they can't fit in America. So how about me? I grew up in Africa. I have my African accent. I'm culturally rooted in Africa, really. There is a lot that I would have to give up culturally to stay in America. So unfortunately, I thought about relationships. I thought about, okay, interracial and intercultural relationships are difficult to navigate. I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe if I had met someone who made me feel like it was worth it, maybe I could have gone that route. But long-term thinking, I thought being in a place where I truly belong and where I feel like I can make an impact and do a meaningful job despite challenges felt much more appealing than staying in America. At some point, it felt like America was a comfort zone. America was a comfort zone in terms of livelihoods, but not in terms of everything else. So being scared of like, what will you eat the following day? How will you make a living? How do you earn a living? Those are the things that a lot of that make a lot of people stay abroad even when they are not thriving. They just survive because they don't have an alternative. Yes, so yeah, to be honest, I have to be honest, I had alternatives as well for how to make an earn a living. The same will not be true for everybody. For me, I had other ways of making money, like crypto. I made a little bit of money there. I felt like, okay, I can invest this money. I had a starting point for returning to Africa. So I understand that even though a lot of these problems that I said affect a lot of other Zimbabweans in the diaspora or other Africans in the diaspora, a lot of people choose to stay because of the livelihood situation. But fortunately for me, there was a point where I saved some money, invested some money, made some profit, that I had a little bit of money that gave me the confidence to come back, to know that I had a starting point to come back. The fear of coming back was overcome. I overcame that fear because of having something like an alternative, you understand? An alternative way of making money. Yeah. This is a good segue into the fifth reason why I left America. I think we're just gonna do one more reason after this one. So yeah, because this video has been long, we just have one more reason after that. We have 2 reasons left. Fifth reason, it's very difficult to be an entrepreneur in America. America is oversaturated with businesses. It's a developed country. And again, because it's expensive to do business there, the startup capital that you need is huge. Again, for people like me dreaming of being a business person, starting your own business, that will be a lot more harder in America than it is here on the continent. On the continent, I will need less startup money, just a good idea. I can try many times and fail many times and whatnot without without really crashing. But in America, like investing in something and failing, you don't have that money to play around with ideas because there are so many businesses already. It requires high levels of capital and skills. Remember, a lot of businesses that are thriving there are technologically focused, or you have to be innovative. But in Africa, there are so many things that are not there yet. There's so many problems, basic problems that need to be solved. So you can be a business person without being highly skilled and without having high amounts of capital. So that's another thing that attracted me to be back on the continent. I know that it's very difficult for someone to have a business while living in America, have a business running on the continent while you live abroad. Some people have tried it. A lot of people have failed. So I thought that if I want to be an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship is the dream for me. I think if I think about my future, I see myself being self-employed in some capacity, earning my own living, not being employed by anybody. So the 9 to 5 in America, the grind of working for some meaningless corporation, doing meaningless work, was not attractive. I'm not saying all jobs are meaningless, but I'm just saying some jobs that I would have maybe endured would have been meaningless to me. I would rather earn less money on the continent doing what I love than earn more money doing a job that takes a toll on my mental health and pays me peanuts on top of that, just because I am in America, right? The other reason, the 6th reason, is that the novelty of America had simply worn off for me. Every place is exciting when you first go there. Trust me, the day I landed in London Heathrow, I was excited. Just being at that Heathrow airport and then driving through London, it's amazing. Going to Buckingham Palace, whatever. You go to the US, you go to New York, you don't go to Times Square, you go to see the Statue of Liberty, you do trips within America, you go to see the stuff that makes America America. The key iconic places in America, you go there, you do stuff. And then the novelty, the whole newness of America gets old. At some point, the tall buildings, the whatever, everything just gets old. So once you start living in America for years, it's not like you get excited about those things that excites you when you get there, or things that excite you before you go to America. They just simply become like everyday things that I just, it's not exciting anymore. So again, that's one reason that I realized, like, okay, I'm not enjoying America as much as I enjoyed it in my first days, because again, reality was just harder now. Like now you have to work, and like all these things. Like, do you know that places are not even that different? A lot of places are similar. People just live, they earn a living, they sleep, they eat, they wake up, they go to work, they come back, they sleep. it's very possible to live that life in America. Just because you are in America doesn't mean you are living the life. It doesn't mean you have a work-life balance. It doesn't mean it's automatic just because it's America. No, you could be in America and not enjoy anything that America brings because you're just waking up, sleeping, waking up, going to work, eating, sleeping. That cycle that everybody has, whether you are in Zimbabwe, South Africa, you are having that same cycle. So there's nothing special about America at the end of the day. After some time, it gets old. That's the point. So the excitement of being in America was no longer a thing for me. It had just gotten old. I'd gotten used to it, and it wasn't exciting to me anymore. So the benefits of being back home in a place that I truly fitted in and things outweighed the pros of staying in America. Yeah. So a bonus reason why I left America is that, again, I like to not think of I don't like to limit myself again. I thought that, again, COVID was also another thing. The COVID-19 pandemic made me really think deeply about things. I feel like whatever happened during the COVID pandemic also influenced my decision because it made me really think about what really mattered in my life, So it's a highly personal decision, and not everybody feels the same way that I do. But I attach a lot of meaning to being back home and being closer to home. The idea of dying in America and then, being buried there and, just living this average life of just going to work in in America for years and then just dying there, not making any impact was a bit, I thought here is where a lot of things need to be done. The continent has a lot of things that need to be done. I don't have all the answers. That's the funny thing. I don't have the answers of what exactly will I do as an entrepreneur? Will I be successful? I don't have the answers, but I guess that's part of taking the leap of faith as well. Not being fearful of the future, taking that risk of leaving that comfort zone of jobs in America, even jobs that you hated there, but coming back to the continent where your future is not guaranteed in terms of what you would do for a living. It's a risk that I took, but then it's an exciting risk nonetheless. I'm very excited for the future, and I feel happier actually. So coming back to Africa has done wonders for my mental health. It's cheaper for me, especially after living in America. Certain things that people find expensive here, because of that perspective that I now have, the reference point that I now have, Africa is actually now cheaper for me. So I can live a good life in Africa. I just need to find a way of continuing to make money. I don't know how. The future is not guaranteed. I have a job for now. I have a 2-year contract. It's ending next year, sometime next year. And then after that, I'm going to face the reality of being an entrepreneur, being on my own, hustling on my own, and just not. So I'm wrapping up this video. So I think that's it for today's video. It's very long. Those are all the reasons why I left the United States. The main reasons why I left the United States to come back to the continent. I do not know what the future holds for me on the continent. Again, I believe in adaptability. So if the continent ends up not working out for me, I can try other countries, whatever. But I am hoping to making things happen here in South Africa and Zimbabwe. I'm hoping to do something. I don't know what exactly I'll do, but I'm working on it. And being back home is giving me better clarity. I'm still uncertain. I don't know what the future holds, but I am excited about the future when I am here on the ground, here where I truly belong. That's it, guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye.